it's been less than 15 years since your first degree. I mean, none of you have crossed 40, but yet each of you has reached a position of influence in the sustainability space. Marianne, you are the founder and director of a nonprofit in the Philippines, the Regenesis project. Now, regenerative development is now discussed by mayors and planners in the Bohol region, largely because of you. Cristina, you are presently the lead for net zero, net positive cities at the World Economic Forum. You talk to mayors and urban planners around the world to show them how their cities might be transformed. Giovanni, you are the head of sustainability at CapitaLand Development, one of the largest real estate developers in Asia. You are producing a sustainability framework for a company that has a massive ecological footprint. I want to know, how on earth did you get here? How did you move so quickly to these epicenters of conversation? Marianne?
I think it sounds kind of paradoxical, but I think the reason why it was a short journey was because I left my profession. So I'm actually a licensed architect, but when I entered the practice, I quickly saw like how shallow and superficial the practice of sustainability was. And I think the final nail on the coffin was when, early in my career, I was tasked to do this building and it was in its detailed development stage. And then I was told, all right, now let's figure out how to make it green, So I left. I came to Singapore looking for work. Then I ended up working for Singapore government, which was great because it allowed me the platform to develop national roadmaps and frameworks. And after a few years, I decided to come up with my own practice, which was the Regenesis project.
Cristina, how did you get here? I mean, World Economic Forum is a pretty big platform. I mean, how did you accelerate your movement towards this position?
Well, I don't think it was accelerated. My life has been, how can I say, very fractal. I was born and raised in Colombia, fascinated about the biodiversity in Colombia. I studied anthropology because I really wanted to understand the causes and reasons why biodiversity and that magical world that I was admiring was so unknown and undervalued and unaccounted, not only in the urban society, but my friends, my family, and myself. And I think that in my career, there has been a lot of push factors in terms of like wanting to change my life path, wanting to contribute, not only wanting to be important, because I don't think this has been my main drive, but wanting to be useful. And when I started to work in Colombia in the rural areas with both indigenous communities and rural communities, I felt that at some point, I was not useful anymore. This was a push factor for me to come and work and to study and work elsewhere and then come back with a sense of responsibility and be more useful.
Giovanni, how did you get here? Head of Sustainability at CapitaLand.
Well, for me, Nirmal was, I would say, an intentionally planned this journey. Also because I come from a background of engineering. I studied building engineering in Milan at the Polytechnic of Milan. So from there, I have initiated this journey and then progressively built my expertise through key projects, certifications, and networks, and so on and so forth. So it was, I would say, like an intentional way of reaching sustainability where it is now. You arrive to the right time at the right moment. That's luck. And in my career, for example, I was able to be exposed to some of the most sustainable buildings in Singapore. I was able to arrive in Singapore in a very specific moment in time where the discussion and the sustainability journey for the country was evolving into something deeper.
The challenge for many young people fresh out of university is finding a career path, right? And forging a career is just one part of what they want. They also want to do things that are purposeful and impactful. Tell me, after graduation, how did the world open up to you? What were the options that were available to you? Giovanni, let's start with you.
So I spent my first couple of years in Asia, in China specifically. So my experience in China was revealing, because it was a way of cleaning, I would say, your perspective of what it means, experiencing different cultural values, different sense of beauty, and so on and so forth. And after this, I had the opportunity of coming to Singapore. And Singapore, I would say, it was in definitely a different moment in its journey. What I appreciated very much in Singapore is it was the sense of resiliency and survival. This is something that I found in the country very deeply rooted, despite its young age, and something that I appreciated because it is indirectly also related to sustainability. It was this fact that Singapore had to live within a very small country with no resources, even from a water perspective. So how do you create resiliency in a country and start building a nation? So that this is something that brought me to come to Singapore and then to stay in Singapore for a long time. Every company, every country has to decarbonize, and the conversation became much richer. But the way in which these principles are translated in action is very different depending on where the country is in that specific moment in life. And this is very unique. You can only experience it fully if you live abroad, if you are in a country that is different from your hometown, and it was a perspective that I found very enriching, because it allows you to also think long term of where the world is going and how these drivers of change in your in the countries where you are living are transforming also the conversation of sustainability. So that this was my experience of what I had seen in this journey.
Tell me, Cristina, when you left Colombia, what were you seeking? I mean, what exactly were you looking for?
Well, I was always trying to understand how comes we could live in a place with so much abundance of water, of species, of fruits and vegetables, soil richness, yet we were so disconnected with those values and always seeking something that was beyond our country limits. And again, an idea of progress and an idea of what's good that was not connected to the local heritage. And this was my main drive. And when I graduated from anthropology, I did have a career in biology, but never finished, because I really wanted to go on the ground and really connect with what I was studying in a lab, right? And I had the chance to merge both worlds in a 2-year experience in the eastern plains of Colombia, and also in what we call the transitional forest, which is the transition between the Orinoco region, the eastern plains of Colombia, and the Amazon. I spent 2 years there, and that experience with indigenous taught me the importance of knowledge and the culture of nurturing wisdom, and through knowledge to have very clear parameters of reciprocity, of what's good and what's wrong from a very nurtured self. So that sense of reciprocity also pushed me to seek a scholarship that took me to study in the UK. So you come with a responsibility. You go outside, you study in high quality schools, and you open your mind, as Giovanni was saying, to other ways of understanding resilience, conservation, rural development. And then you enlarge your criteria and your wisdom and your knowledge to be back and somehow be useful wherever it's possible and whenever it's possible. So that was my journey, but really pushed by this kind of feeling that there was something wrong in a country with so much abundance, but with so much violence and inequality and very complex situation that I think is transversal to the countries that are resource rich. Right. So also, I haven't get to that point of being reciprocal necessarily, but I'm on it.
Marianne, you did go back. In fact, you are the Regenesis project is based in the Philippines, and you are very active in your home region. The things that you've learned in Singapore and the experiences that you've had, now you've used to construct a paradigm for where you're from.
And I think that it was that pivotal moment where I realized, like, you know what? Since I have a day job, I don't actually have to quit in order to start something. I could do it in parallel. And it was very funny because I decided to do this in the middle of a pandemic. We officially launched the Regenesis project. I was not there in Bohol. I had to do it all remotely. The whole thing took off while I was in Singapore, and my team, who is my family, in the Philippines. And I was doing all that with my own company, not even knowing. No one is actually truly secure if you think about it. I mean, with all of these things going on, anyone could lose their jobs at any moment. But the ability and the chance to be able to focus on and to work on your true passion now and find a way to make a living out of it while you still have, another more stable source of income. I think that was the absolute correct decision for me. By the time it took for me to really start something, go big, go bold, start talking to governments, governors, mayors, and all of that, having that strong framework that I have spent like 10 years thinking, researching, and whatnot, put a lot of thought into it, researched a lot, using a lot of case studies, combined with my background experience on, national framework development. That was like the clincher. It almost didn't matter that no one heard about who I was. Like, I was completely, I left the industry. No one has heard of any firm by me or whatever. So even though I have lost 15 years of experience, I think taking that long detour paid off immensely.